This is World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment with your host, Carl Gruber. World Awakenings is a podcast dedicated to opening your mind, your heart, and your eyes to the fact that the world's population is now, more than ever, awakening to all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening, and just how they play an all-important role in our daily life. So join Carl on this enlightening experience as he interviews metaphysical and spiritual experts to discuss, debate, and delve deeply into the hows and whys of this worldwide awakening.
One of the greatest things you can do for the overall quality of your life and maintaining excellent health throughout your lifetime is exercising. And for me, my exercise of choice is running. Hi, I'm Carl Gruber, the author of the short ebook, The Jogger to Runner book. I've been a runner for over 40 years, and I've completed 78 marathons. Now, running is my passion, and that is why I wrote this short, concise, and easy-to-use ebook to help you become a runner too. So if you're now walking or just slowly jogging but have the desire to begin running, the Jogger to Runner book is now available for just $1.99. Just scan the QR code you see on the screen now to get your copy. You don't have to run a marathon or even race, just run for the joy of it and run for a better quality of life. That's the Jogger to Runner book. Get your copy today. Hey folks, welcome once again to the show World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment. I'm your host, Carl Gruber. Now, on this show, we always take a deep dive into all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening as we continue our quest to know and understand that which lies behind the facade of our 3D world. Now, before we meet today's guest, please take a moment to click that subscribe button so you never ever miss another episode of this show. So, our guest today is Mary McMonagle. She is an intuitive healer and feminine energy coach, and also an energy expansion coach, which involves clearing out in mind, body, and soul what no longer serves you to amplify all that you deserve and desire. I like that already. Mary's certifications include a lot. It's great. Master Level Reiki Practitioner, Quantum Group Coaching Facilitator, N.L.P Practitioner, what is that? Neuro-linguistic programming. Hypnosis Practitioner, Life and Success Coach. T.I.M.E Practitioner, I'll have to find out about that one. EFT Practitioner, yep. That is also an emotional freedom technique known as tapping. Now, Mary has created this rapid transformational method by combining her two favorite ways to up-level herself. She uses her expertise in Reiki and coaching tools and techniques to dive deep into the 4 layers of the body: emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual. We'll talk more about that later. And Mary is also the founder of True Vibe, a spiritual lifestyle brand. Plus, she is a podcaster of her own show called Living Your True Vibe. With that, welcome, Mary. You made it.
Thank you, Carl. What an intro. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, you've got a lot of talent. That's pretty awesome. And, you know, before we dive deeper into all these incredible abilities and talents that you've developed and perfected, let's find out more about you, Mary. How did you get to this point as a coach and teacher when you were, or actually, were you always inquisitive as a youngster? Did you have any particular influences that pointed you in this direction?
Yeah, I love that. From the time I was a kid, I always said, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to be good whatever I do, and I'm going to help people. And that's kind of always been my philosophy. It stayed with me. And so to answer your question of how I got in, I always knew I wanted to help people. So I went to school to be a speech pathologist. And I hit a crossroads because when it was coming to the point where I was going to go to graduate school to get my master's, because it's required in order to be a speech pathologist, my heart was calling me to become a yoga teacher. I just kept hearing, go become a yoga teacher, because I took a lot of time. I actually had to wait a year to get into grad school, and I took a year off, was doing a lot of yoga, was traveling, was really getting to know who I was and what I wanted. So I was up against this crossroads where all my friends were going to graduate school and getting their degree. And that's what my parents wanted me to do. And I shared with them, I feel like I don't want to go to graduate school and I want to become a yoga teacher.
Mm.
And they were like, absolutely not. You do that when you retire, when you save up and you have money. And so I did go, I listened, even though my soul felt this was wrong. And it was one day I was on a hike and I started to meditate and I got an intuitive message of my favorite quote, which is do not follow where the path may lead, but go instead where there's no path and leave a trail.
Mm.
And I saw my life in two different paths. If I stayed in graduate school, it was the path that was quote unquote predictable. And I say quote unquote because life is not predictable at all. And even when you think you're taking the path that's safe and guaranteed. But so I saw it was predictable because I would be making a certain amount of money, I'd have a nice title, and I felt into what it would feel like. And it didn't feel like myself. And the other path was to drop out of grad school, go become a yoga teacher. And that I saw that I couldn't see at all. I only saw the next move, which was I had been eyeing this yoga teacher training in Las Vegas, this program, and I just saw that was the next move. I couldn't see down the road, and I felt into that, and it felt like freedom. It felt like excitement. So I knew in that moment, Carl, what I had to do, and I had to let go of this identity that I thought I was trying to create and chase, but I knew it was just what people were expecting of me. So fast forward, that led me into getting back into Reiki, which I had been receiving since I was a kid. That led me back into just becoming obsessed with self-development. And over time, that led me to all of my certifications, and COVID led me into starting my online business. And here we are today.
Wow. Do you realize how many people don't follow that path, that unbeaten path like you? And I guess I can kind of identify. I've kind of been that way my entire life too, and still am. And but I mean, the vast majority of the people of the world, they work a job because they were supposed to, or get a degree because they were supposed to, and 40 years later they finally get to do what they originally had a passion for, or they don't, and their life ends. So good for you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's and that when I remember just from the time I was a kid, if people were always going right, I would question, well, why are you going right? Why not go left? And that was just who I was as a kid. By nature, you look back and it's more of like that rebel personality, even though I wouldn't consider myself a rebel. Maybe I am now, but when I was a kid, it was just like, well, why are you doing that? So I took that with me and just questioning, because when you question, then you get to see and feel, which is what I help clients do, is feel into their body of what actually feels good for them.
Man, I bet you drove your parents nuts.
Oh, yeah, that was a whole roller coaster ride because
Mommy, why did you turn left instead of right?
yeah, I said, "Hey mom, I'm driving through Texas. I just dropped out of grad school."
Oh no. Oh man, your life is going to make a great movie. So,
Thank you.
well, let's find out some more. I've been doing
Yeah.
homework on you. Your website states that you offer spiritual life coaching. What aspect of spirituality do you focus on when you're coaching someone?
Yeah, I love that question. So, when I'm coaching someone, I explore all four of our bodies. So we have our mental body, which is our thoughts. We have our emotional body, which is our feelings. We have our physical body, and that could be actually your physical body or your physical reality. And then your spiritual body, meaning your overall connection to God, to the universe, to angels. So when I'm working with clients, whatever, now I've shifted working specifically with women who are struggling to attract their partner that they desire. So we're going to look at their belief system. Well, what do you believe? Do you believe that there are no good men or it's hard for you to trust? And then we're going to dive into the emotional body and the emotions that have been stored around that. And also, we're going to explore when those emotions and thoughts were created. It's usually childhood. It's sometimes even when they were in their mother's womb, so during their mom's pregnancy, or even generational. And then we're going to explore how that's impacting their physical reality. And overall, with the spiritual side, we're going to look at how we can enhance their life, how we can start to bring in more of that self trust, more of that self love.
Yeah, very, very, very interesting too. And like you said, you kind of specialize working with women. This, of course, brings up the topic of divine feminine. What
Yeah.
exactly is divine feminine?
Yeah. So I really get clear with my clients on polarity, and polarity means it's our energy. So every single human, so whether you're a man listening to this, whether you're a female, we all have um, masculine energy, which is our doing, it's the logical mind, it's the taking action. And we all have feminine energy, which is the ability to trust, to be able to let go, to be in flow. It's really coming from the heart. So I work with a lot of women, and every now and then I have a male client as well. But mostly women who are really in their head and they're struggling to get out of their head and drop into their heart. And so they're very much in their masculine energy. They're very go-getters, high achievers, a lot of big goals and dreams. And I work on allowing them to uh actually feel safe in their masculine energy, because in order to shift into your feminine energy, you have to feel safe within yourself. So we really work on and allowing themselves to feel safe and to welcome in safety and safety around others, so that they can then be in their fullest self-expression of their feminine energy, where they're walking into a room and you notice that people are staring at you, but you own that. You walk into this room of the energy of a woman who completely feels that she is someone of status. She is someone who is worthy of people attracting people and people coming over to her.
Yeah, as I told you earlier, I'm a life coach myself, and one thing that I have found, and you just kind of touched on this, I have found is most of my clients don't feel worthy. They don't feel
Yes.
worthy of
Mm.
having their greatest dreams, desires, and aspirations, and they are worthy.
Yes. Oh, I love that you mentioned that, Carl, because I see that with a lot of women who come to me. They have very successful businesses and they've strived and worked hard to quote unquote succeed. And I say quote unquote because everyone's definition of success is different. And, if you're listening to this, I would first invite you to explore what is your definition of success. So these women come to me, and especially they're attracting not the right ideal partners and the right kinds of men. And even though on a surface level, if you look at their business, you would think, wow, you have it all together. What do you mean you don't believe you're worthy? And that's where I really love this work, because I say it's like we're getting, if we were to skim the surface of a pool, maybe there's some leaves on the top of the surface. That's not what we're doing. We're going to skim that, but then we're going to dive deep into where our body is holding on to not believing you are worthy, and why. Because once we understand and clear that, then it makes being able to navigate forward and move forward. Even just this weekend, with my group coaching program, I told the women in the program, I said, if this feels like a good belief for you to try out this week, try it out. If not, that's okay. But I said, what would be possible if this week you believed that you deserve the best? And some women might, hearing like, I wholeheartedly believe I deserve the best. And an old version of Mary would hear that and might be triggered and might say, oh, well, who do you think you are? And, but it comes from a place of that I know my standards, I know my values, I know my worth, um, that I am so deeply connected to that belief. So that's just an example of, where I see it in clients, but then where you get to be on the other side of it.
And I would think, at least my experience is that when somebody has a lack of self worth, much of that comes from our paradigms growing up. I mean, all of the amazing guests I've had on and just talking to people one on one, I was fortunate to grow up in a pretty balanced household. I mean, everybody's got their issues, but I didn't have abusive parents mentally or physically, but, there's way more people who are abused, with narcissistic parents and that type of thing. I've already just had a guest a couple of weeks ago who dealt with that. But yeah, so a lot of it goes back to the paradigms that we've adapted growing up, where we don't feel worthy because our family's going. Nobody in our family has ever had a master's degree. Why should you?
Yeah, yeah. And you made a good point too, Carl, which I want to like tap on. I feel guided to tap on first around because I have these women who come to me and they're like, Mary, I don't need to do childhood healing and inner child and mother and feminine healing. My childhood was amazing. And but what I see with those clients is, okay, well, let's explore maybe where it is impacting you, because a lot of the women that I work with, they have these perfectionist tendencies, and they have these tendencies where they feel they're only worthy of love if they've achieved something, because it goes back to, okay, maybe you were a straight A student and your parents, that's all the only time you got their love, because yeah, maybe they weren't emotionally or physically abusive, but they had their own lives going on. So you picked up these subconscious beliefs that I'm only worthy if I achieve something or I do something really good. So I definitely see even how, people who maybe had a quote unquote amazing childhood, that it can impact them there. And then also obviously the opposite. The opposite is I grew up, both my parents were divorced and they never remarried. And I was the youngest of four kids. So they didn't have a lot of time. So I grew up, I was been very independent from the time that I was 5 years old. And I'm very, very independent now, which is what I actually work a lot with the clients that I see, because they take on this hyper independence and it's really a challenge for them to trust people, to allow help, and to let their guard down, because it's almost the opposite of the other scenarios. They're afraid of being hurt. They're afraid of being rejected. Where the opposite scenario is like, okay, let me like really, really try so I can earn your approval and validation. Where a lot of my clients who are similar to me is we are very closed off, and sometimes and that makes it hard, especially in an energetic capacity, because if you're closed off energetically, you're not just, even if you are successful in your business or in your career, you're not just blocking out love, but you are blocking out even other opportunities to achieve more financial opportunities, to achieve more clients. So that's why I love looking at exploring it on all avenues, not just the thoughts, but especially the energy as well.
Are you sure you're not a psychotherapist?
I know. It's so funny because people always ask me, and I'm sure you get this question a lot too, which is what's the difference between life coaching and therapy? And life coaching is very focused forward. You have a goal and you are, of course, going to have mental blocks to get there and need to unlock why those hurdles, as I like to say, are there. And I always tell people, but with me, it's essential. We are going to revisit uh, the roots. And those roots are, maybe your parents weren't in your life as a kid. So we're definitely going to explore that. But we're also I say the apple really doesn't fall too far from the tree. We can pick up those tendencies from when we learned from our family. So Yeah, for me, I do say I'm definitely not a therapist, but we are going to revisit. And actually, one of the techniques that you said that you were curious about, which I'm trained in, is the time technique. And this is a really powerful technique where I guide my clients on a subconscious level to uh go revisit a memory that's been stored in their subconscious. So either the time from they were born to 7 years old, maybe the time that they were in their mom's womb. So that could be as early as 1 month, your mom was pregnant, to 9 months, or even generational. And on a subconscious level, they're able to see uh what is happening and understand the learning from it without actually having to um feel all the emotions that were in that moment. And so what it's doing is subconsciously it's saying, okay, that's why I have this fear of being seen. That's why I don't feel safe to receive love or money. And then what we're doing is then taking those learnings and applying it consciously. So yeah, even though therapy and life coaching are totally different things, a lot of the modalities, especially when you're working on a subconscious level, can really have rapid impact.
So that acronym TIME, what does it stand for?
T.I.M.E. Um, you know, that's actually a really good question. And if I'm being honest, I actually don't remember.
That's all right because I tried to look it up online earlier and I couldn't quite find it, but it sounds pretty viable. Um,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, it's based off NLP, which you said in the beginning of this was neurolinguistic programming.
yeah, Tony Robbins is one of the biggest proponents of NLP, but
Yeah.
so the bottom line here is each and every one of us need to find a way to balance our feminine and masculine energy because men have both and so do women. But, it's
Yeah.
got to be a good balance so that we can live a balanced life.
Yes. I'm very big on balance. I'm very big that we need both our but what doesn't matter if you're a male or a man listening to this, we need both. We need our heads screwed on, right? Because um a lot of times I see women who come to me and I look at their relationship patterns and their dynamics, and a lot of them have the pattern of ignoring red flags. And if you're listening to this, whether you're single or in a relationship, we all have this. We can ignore red flags with friends. So when I see clients who have a pattern of ignoring red flags, that tells me that they need to connect a little bit more actually with their masculine side, because their heart is, well, I've never felt this way before. And even though I'm ignoring all these red flags, and so the logic is super important, but then also the emotional side comes in with that, because whatever they're feeling, whatever you're getting that feeling off of that person, even though that it's not an aligned fit for you and you have different values, but you felt this deep emotion. So what I'm doing with my clients is actually allowing them to then feel and give that to themselves. Self-love, which everybody preaches nowadays, but really actually allowing yourself to energetically feel it in your body, which is an embodiment level, where embodiment meaning you are just being, that is who you are. And then vice versa. So I'll have clients who a lot are very much in their head. They are very much in attention to detail. And it's scary for them to get out of their head, because that's going to require them to let down the walls that they've put up around their heart. So when you can connect the two, it really makes you a powerful being. And I feel called to mention this right now, Carl. I think someone listening to this, or it's just a nice reminder that a lot of us, we are actually afraid of how powerful we get to be.
Absolutely, yeah. I say that to my clients. When a person is actually faced for the first time with their true power, they go, "Whoa, I can do that."
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that is a revelation. You mentioned earlier as life coaches that you and I are. One of the things I have a coaching agreement that I have my clients sign in advance, and it says, I am not a psychotherapist. I am a
Yeah,
coach here to help you blossom and awaken to your own power. And if they need more than that, they agree to go to a professional like a psychotherapist or some type of therapy. And that's important. It really is.
for sure.
But I'd like to go back a little bit more. You touched on. Let's talk again about the four layers of the body that you work with. What are they, and are they all equally important?
Yeah. Ooh, great question. So yeah, the four layers again are our mental body, which is our thoughts. So whatever you are thinking about something. So I'll use an example. I'll share what they are and put it with an example so it can really land for you. So yesterday I was going over to a friend's house and I love to look good. I love to get dressed up. I love to wear heels. And so that's just how I just am someone who is always takes pride in my physical appearance. So I go over and immediately someone there says, "Oh, wow, you're really dressed up." And so I immediately we can make a thought of that. And luckily I'm in a place where I know how to say like, "I know, thank you so much." But I know a lot of my clients who have this deep fear of being seen, they then create that thought, oh, wow, this person thinks I'm too dressed up. And then that can filter into a feeling, which is our emotional body. Our emotional body is also our energetic state. And, if everybody's heard the phrase or probably may have said, oh my gosh, she has good energy, or I like his energy, I like your vibe. So that then gets filtered into the emotional body of feeling. So my clients who have this fear of being seen and now somebody's pointing it out and they haven't really been working on themselves, they're making it mean, or I made it mean a good thing. I'm like, oh my God, no, thank you so much. They're making it mean a bad thing. So then the emotion that gets stored is maybe feeling uncomfortable, maybe feeling now they feel a little bit embarrassed. And then that seeps into your physical body, so that actually gets stored somewhere in your body. I work with the chakra system, which is the energy centers within our body. But also then it impacts your physical reality, because let's say the person who's afraid of being seen is now feeling uncomfortable. They're not going to show up in that physical space with their light shining bright. They're going to maybe be a little bit quieter, maybe feel like hide in a sense. And then how that impacts the spiritual body, your overall ability to trust a higher power. For me, that's God, but even just in general, to trust yourself. So now I'm saying, now that client who's afraid to be seen is now saying, oh my gosh, see, Mary, we can't, this is why I told you not to put this outfit on. And so it's a cycle, and that's a very surface level example, but to filter through all four of those bodies.
Yeah, and all four of those bodies are so important, and it is just so difficult to all you have to do is watch the news or even
Yeah.
go like X or Twitter, whatever you call it. I mean, there's a lot of people, way too many people in the world who are out of balance, and
Yeah.
God for people like you to help everybody, not only women but men too. You also talk about, and I think you kind of touched on us already, but you talk about the effect of our mother and our father wounds that have on us. What are these wounds, and
Mm.
how far reaching are they?
Yeah. Another great question, Carl. So, our mother wound and our father wound is basically how the impact with our mom or our mother figure. Maybe your mom wasn't in your life. Maybe your aunt took care of you. Whoever took care of you and maybe you had a single dad, he was then taking on both of those roles, because again, I look at everything from energy. And so the mother wound is being able to look at how the impact of whoever was that motherly, that feminine caregiver, that then creates beliefs in all four of those bodies, which we discussed. And that's going to impact what you believe and how you show up. And then it's the same thing with your dad, or maybe your dad wasn't in your life. that's going to create what I see a lot in a lot of clients with the abandonment wound. So we're really exploring whoever was our caregivers and how that impacted us. But then also I add it into a layer deeper and how that impacts us on an energetic level. So, for example, my mom, because she was a single mom of 4 kids, was very, very independent. So I learned that for me on an energetic level, that I'm only worthy of love, and if I am can do everything on my own and I can handle it on my own, which is not feminine energy. Feminine energy is about being able to receive. And then with my dad, he was very emotionally unavailable, again, because single dad of 4. So a big thing to add in here too, Carl, is it's not about blaming your parents. It's you are entitled to feel how you feel around your childhood and your situation, because it's important to feel that, but then move those emotions out and be into a place of acceptance and actually how it's serving you. So my dad was emotionally unavailable, and I I was very emotionally unavailable until I started really doing this healing work. And so how that's serving me is I get to now really, because I became aware of how much walls and how closed off I was emotionally, that I was scared to let in love. And now I get to experience that served me because it allowed me to be aware of where I was blocking myself from receiving and receiving love.
Wow, yeah, that's great. And I've talked about this on many shows that um, we all adapt our beliefs and paradigms, negative or positive, by the time we're 7 years old. And then some people carry it for the next 70 years, and 80 years, and they don't release it. And thank God for people like you out there to help somebody with. But that makes me think again, going back, just seeing what we see in the media, that much of the world is completely out of whack and out of balance.
Yes.
What do you think it is about today's world that is causing that?
Yeah. That's a really good question. So I really believe that so the way that the world is run, it's very out of balance, because the way society is told is very masculine. You have to go to work, do these things, move up on the pay scale. And also, so if you look at that, but then also if you look at the feminist movement, that really pulled women the opposite way, because okay, let's lead toward, yeah, women should be more dependent. Obviously, we should be able to vote and have those same basic rights as men. But then it pushed women into a place where it okay, well, you are Miss Independent. You don't need a man. You can do all these things on your own, which is amazing. Absolutely. Again, I'm very independent and I love that quality about myself, but I also know how to soften and surrender and allow a man to come into my life. And so the way that this is resonates with me, maybe this resonates with you listening, maybe it doesn't, but this is I've explored this based off of evolutionary psychology. So going back to the caveman era, where the men were the hunters and the women were the gatherers. And the way that our bodies are designed, men are biologically on a way to give, and women are a biologically level where we receive and then we create through life force energy. So I believe over time that the way that the world has evolved, there has, given there's so much around, it's really pulled us out of our basic essence. And now like evolving is an amazing thing, like even with technology, and obviously, women being able to do um more labor intensive things, like if that's your jam, amazing. I'm not saying don't do that, or, you can only be a certain way, but just being able to connect back to the essence. Because I was telling my clients yesterday, I said, listen, because I teach on feminine energy, I said, when I'm teaching this, I'm very much in my masculine energy. I am coming at you with a lot of masculine energy right now because I need to make sure you feel safe, supported. I'm guiding the dynamic. But you best believe when I get off that call, I'm then allowing myself to return to my natural essence, which is my feminine energy. So I'm taking time to really allow myself to receive. And then also I bring that into the relationship aspect where I will let the man lead because that by nature is what feels good in his mind and his body by nature. And I will by nature be in that gatherer, that nurturing, that receiver mode. So last thing I'll share, because I can go on and on about this. A lot of women were scared to, and even men, right? Too, both of us, we're scared to surrender. We're scared to actually trust because we think we're gonna lose part of control. But I would argue that we actually have, when you're with someone, especially in a relationship, when you can surrender and you can let go, you are actually really being in control, especially for women. When you are, what I see with my clients when they're dating, they are able to communicate in a feminine way where they're actually controlling, but it's in a way that it lets the man be in his masculine. So a quick example of this is um, allowing, if you're going on a date, allowing and when a man says, oh, where do you want to go? I guide my clients to communicate. Actually, it feels really good to me allowing you to lead and to pick the restaurant. And then you can insert, but I'm craving Italian or Mexican. So you're allowing him to lead, but you're still obviously getting your needs met as well.
Wow, that's a great perspective. This is awesome. Marry me.
Thank you. I love it.
Bachelor.
I mean, I'm all about balance and I'm all about it's important to connect with what my truth might not be your truth, and that's totally okay. But also at the end of the day, don't deny yourself what you actually crave and desire. Because I think a lot of us put on a facade. Oh, I
Mm.
don't want this. I don't want that. I don't need this. And like, even like I mentioned, at the beginning of this saying, I deserve the best. I think a lot of us put on a facade because it's our ego being like, well, I don't need the best. Like, I'm okay with what I have, but why not? It's a facade. So, at least just start to be honest about what you want. And maybe when you're honest with yourself and you are like, nope, I'm good. This is what I want. That's okay.
Well, I kind of feel like I need to ask this question. And number one, before I state it, I have no judgment on this. And I am just wondering because we've talked about most of the people in the world being completely out of balance with their divine and feminine energy. Do you think that is contributing to what we're seeing more and more of the trans movement? Is that,
Absolutely.
and again, I'm non-judgmental. I know it's a real controversial topic, but I'm just curious on that.
I love that you asked that. And I absolutely believe so. Again, I'm not judgmental. I have friends who are trans, and I've only shared this with a few people, but I'll share it here. This is my own personal belief. So you could say, Mary, you're crazy. This doesn't make sense. I believe in some capacity. It's almost because I believe in past lives. I almost believe that people who maybe were born in this lifetime and are a girl, but really connect with the identity of a boy, maybe in their past lives, they were a boy for for 5 lives straight. And that's what they know. Um, that's just like a real woo-woo spiritual belief that I've had before. But absolutely, to answer your question, I really believe that we are so lost in our identity. And of course, it all goes back to the generation before you, and not even just your parents. We go, if you're listening to this, you are um 7 generations back, and you have the impact to impact 7 generations in the future. So when you have children and when they have children, so that is why connect with your truth, because if you had parents who, my parents and when I look at their generation, it was very much you go to school, you get a job, you do this. And then my parents, my grandparents, they were around in World War II, and that was a scarcity generation. So it's like, no wonder I have so many limiting money beliefs because that is in my DNA. So to answer your question, Carl, I 100% believe that's why, especially now, there's more people who are really confused about themselves, and we have the answers within ourselves. So allow yourself to feel into that and ask yourself, what is the truth? But 100% I believe that um people are just generally confused, and I think a lot of people, a lot, especially as kids and young adults, we rely on people we deem respectable, but we don't know what someone else is battling with at the same time. So that's why it's so important to sit with yourself and unlock who you really are on even on an energetic level, especially.
I forgot about that seven generational thing that we each have to deal with each lifetime, and in many ways that makes sense to me. I'm guessing that in truth, over history, there's been just as many people as now that felt the need to move from one gender to the other, identify it only, but because of technology and the way we see it now, it's just way more apparent than it ever has, and which leads to more and more people saying, well, maybe I need to do this. So yeah, it's a snowball effect, but oh my gosh, we got karma, past lives, all kinds of stuff. Holy mackerel. We are talking to Mary McMonagle, and she is just an amazing, amazing person. I would like to find out more too. One other thing I found on doing looking into what you do. There's different levels of consciousness and energetic vibrations. So, I mean, this is a big question. What is subconscious, conscious, and the superconscious mind, which I have always had a little bit of a difficulty figuring out.
Oh, yeah, these are such great questions. Thank you, Carl. Yeah, so we are really going down some deep rabbit holes. But I know if you feel called to this, and if you're still listening to this, then like, oh, get ready because you're going to expand and quantum leap, which means just all goodness. So our mind, you can explore the mind, well, in many different facets, but we're looking at these three facets right now, which is our conscious mind, which is you and I having this conversation right here, right now. We are talking, and you might be listening and thinking, oh my God, this is the best podcast ever. I'm so glad I listened to this. That is your conscious thoughts. That's you can hear or at least be aware of a thought that you're thinking. And now, when we seep into your subconscious mind, though, and this is where I work with clients because this is a very powerful place to be. These are where thoughts are created that we're not even aware. So if you like we'll use that example of, say you walk into a room and somebody says something to you, and if you already have a subconscious thought that you're afraid to be seen, then it's sending that, then it's just growing, it's feeding that thought. See, I can't afraid to be seen. So then subconsciously you're going to dim your light. You're maybe not going to speak up. You're maybe not going to wear the outfit that you really wanted to wear. So on a subconscious level, that is then connecting to our conscious and impacting those decisions that we do on a day-to-day basis. And then the super conscious, which really isn't talked enough about, and simply put, it's just entering that higher state, that higher vibration consciousness, being able to connect to God, being able to connect to energy, being able to feel and sense energy. Even just, for some people listening, like for me, I connect to God and that higher consciousness. But I was asking a friend about Arizona or the Grand Canyon the other day. And I said, oh my gosh, what was the energy like when you were there? And that is your super conscious, because you're picking up on those vibrational and on those vibrations and those feelings. So when you can be aware of all three of these, it's super powerful because Even last week, I had been sitting for a few weeks about a decision I wanted to make in my business. And my conscious mind was like, do this, do this, do this. And I'm like, no, this doesn't feel right. I'm going to be patient. And so I'm like tapping in on a subconscious level. Well, why is my conscious mind saying, hey, Mary, do this, do this? And the subconscious was saying, was showing me where all these limiting beliefs were coming up around that. So it was a really valuable lesson. And then a couple of days later, I got a huge intuitive download in my meditation, which was the superconscious saying, this is what you should do. And again, that's that intuitive knowing. So that was really, really helpful because it was like, boom, everything clicked and it all made sense.
Well, for me, I guess I tend to these days dwell a lot in the superconscious because I'm all about,
Yeah.
going back to source and remember.
Mm,
And this is where a person can discover their true power when they reconnect source, and that lies in our superconscious. And so many people are disconnected. I mean, everybody, including myself, we're walking around with a cell phone and we got earbuds in, everything. We have all this cacophony in our ears, and we're not paying attention to things until we can release. And this is why meditation is good. You can sit
yeah.
down quiet, and that's where you can tap into your superconscious and head back to source. It's way more important than most of the world thinks it is.
It really is because, and I know that example I just shared, I know I was like fighting going into meditation because I didn't think it was going to be productive. I'm like, I have all these things I need to do. I need to figure this out now. And because my mind's saying we have to do, Mary, we have to just go ahead and do all these things so we're productive. And when I actually took that moment to slow down and to meditate, that was so, so, so productive because then I got the answer that I needed and I was trying to force. So a lot of times when we actually slow down instead of trying to push through and we just take a moment to really allow ourselves to go within and say, okay, and when I meditate, and not all the time, but most of the time, if I need answers on something, I get into a real theta brainwave state, which is very relaxed state. Then I'm talking to my body. I'm bringing in body. How do you feel about this decision? If my body gets really tight and tense, then I know it's not a good decision. If my body feels really relaxed and like happy and excited, then I know it's a good decision. And that is the ultimate key to trusting yourself.
Wow, very wise advice. We're talking to Mary McMonagle. Why do I have such a problem? McMonagle.
Everyone does. You're saying it great.
And on top of everything that you do, you surf. You're a surfer.
I do. It's surfing is life. I always say this. I actually run an event here on the Jersey Shore called Surfing is Life. Because I'll give this metaphor example. I was talking, there seems to be a lot of fear coming up lately for a lot of people. A lot of people are getting ready to move forward in their life. And right, spring is around the corner. So even season wise, we're moving on. We're into this rebirth cycle, new growth. And I was sharing with a friend, I said, this fear is very normal, but it's important when you're looking at fear, is this moving you towards the person you want to become? Or is this fear coming because it's actually not it's not putting you in a good place? And so the metaphor with surfing, I said, when I started to ride a lot bigger waves, I would be paddling for the wave and I would still feel the fear. The fear was absolutely there. But a big thing about surfing is you have to look to where you're going in the wave. If you look down at the drop, you are going to drop. So
Right.
in surfing, if you look where you're going to go, you can still feel the fear, but know where you're going and look to where you're going. And if you're not sure where that is, then ask yourself, what are your values? What is important to you? It might just be happiness. So in your day to day, you can literally ask yourself, is this going to make me happy? And go to that. So serving is life. That's where everything, I feel so safe and connected to God, the universe when I'm out there. And Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, that's kind of like me when I'm running. I've been running for hundreds of years, and yeah, I feel safe and connected when I'm out there. But surfing, wow, you're on the Atlantic Ocean, man. I hope you have a wetsuit because that's holy man.
It's cold right now. It is really, really cold. So I have a really thick wetsuit. I have to wear boots, gloves, a hood. Hoping we haven't had waves in a couple weeks, but hopefully tomorrow there actually might be some waves. But
Oh,
come summer, it gets warm and you don't have to wear all that gear.
you are wise beyond your years for being a young woman. Or you're what? You're like 19 or 20 years old. That's
Thank you. I'm 30 years old, but thank you.
awesome. It's been an awesome chat with you. I really appreciate you being here. What is the best way for people to connect with you?
Yeah, connect with me if you're on Instagram at MaryMC4. I have a bunch of free resources, but just send me a message. Let me know that you found me on Carl's podcast. Let me know what was your biggest takeaway. Let me know just what your thoughts were in general. I'm happy to have a discussion. And if you're not on Instagram, connect with me on my website. My email or my website is truevibewellness.com, and you can send me an email.
And I will put those links in the show notes so people can just click on them and go right to your website, connect with you, and just some awesome stuff. Mary, I'm so appreciative. Thank you for being here on World Awakenings.
Thank you so much, Carl. This was a really great conversation, and thanks everyone for listening.
This has been another episode of World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment with host Carl Gruber, a certified Law of Attraction life coach. We welcome you to tune in to each and every episode of World Awakenings as we open your mind, your heart, and your eyes to the fact that the world's population is now, more than ever, awakening to the truth of all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening, and just how much they play an all-important role in our moment-to-moment daily life. Much love and light to you, my friend, and thank you for tuning into World Awakenings.